Welcome to the GeekWire conversation with the two candidates for Seattle mayor. Joining us right now is current City Council President Lorena González. First elected in 2015, Lorena had the good fortune to become council president at one of the toughest periods civically in Seattle history. And even so, she still wants to be your mayor. Thank you so much for sitting down with GeekWire today, Lorena.
Thanks so much for having me, Mike.
So let's get right to the questions. What will your administration do to retain Seattle's competitive edge as a startup, tech, and business hub?
Well, I see that as two really important things. The first one is talent. We have a lot of rich talent here in our city that feeds into the tech sector, and as the candidate in this race who has the strongest, largest labor support, it's really important for me to support workers and the future workforce who wants to enter into this really important field that pays well and is a good job opportunity, good career opportunity. So that's really important, I think. And then the second is making sure that we have a vibrant city. People who move here currently, Amazon has 12,500 jobs posted right here in Seattle. And so it's important for us to make sure that we're building a city that is, relies on good public transit, that has nice parks, that has good affordable housing. These are the things that attract many of the workers in the tech sector to come here. And I'm focusing a lot on the workers because I really do believe that workers are the backbone of the tech sector, and it's who makes it work. And so for me, it's important to continue to focus on what is going to attract the workforce that is going to lead to the ongoing success of the tech sector.
So given your reference to Amazon, it dovetails nicely with the next question. What would you say to the tech community and the business community that you think it needs to hear right now that it hasn't heard?
That it hasn't heard. Well, I think we've said a lot of things to each other in the years, but I think for me, as we are looking to build back better, to have a city that is really rooted in shared prosperity. To me, it's important that the tech sector be a good partner in helping us build a vibrant city, a good partner in helping us, address some of the crises we're currently facing in our city around climate change, around civil rights issues, and certainly around housing affordability and homelessness. And I think that there's a great opportunity for them to come to the table and to be a willing participant in investing in our communities.
Well, then, all right, let's get to the option of even living in Seattle. A lot of the employees now have a choice of where to live and where to do their work. Make a case for why they should stay in Seattle.
This is probably the easiest case I'll ever have to make. It is a beautiful city. We're surrounded by water. We have some of the best business districts, local economy-based business districts in the city. And I think that's supported by the fact that we still, even in the period of the pandemic, have thousands of people moving to the city of Seattle every month. And so Seattle continues to be a place where people want to live, both because of our progressive democratic values, but also because of our nature and our beauty in the region, including here in Seattle. But I'll tell you, it'd be a lot easier for folks to live here and move here if we had actual workforce housing and affordable housing and different kinds of housing choices for tech workers who want to feel like they are living in a major urban core as opposed to feeling like they might be living in the suburbs. So I think that's the city I want to be able to build, that 15-minute city that really feels like an urban city. And I think the next mayor will have an opportunity to put us on the path to be just that.
Well, certainly the point on affordable housing is reflected in the recent C-City survey of tech workers, who put it at a very top of list of concerns. Before the pandemic, Seattle's downtown at noon every day according to at least some calculations, was one of the most densely populated 2 square mile areas in the Western United States. Obviously, it isn't now. What is your plan to make downtown appeal to those workers again, at least to the extent that some of them are going to be returning to downtown in the coming months?
Yeah, I think, there was also a recent survey that came out that said that I think it was 6 in 10 workers don't want to come back to work in an office setting. They prefer to telework. So I think there's going to be an opportunity to have a conversation, a thoughtful conversation that engages workers, office workers, their employers and office owners around how we can better utilize office workspace that may not ever revert back to 100% capacity. I think that's the reality for us now. I think our office work culture, our office work infrastructure has radically been changed by COVID. And make no mistake, with Delta variant floating around, we're still not out of the woods. And so we have an opportunity to sort of have a productive conversation about, for those workers who do have plans to come back quickly. It's important for us to have a conversation with employers, with workers, and with property owners about how we can repurpose and change the street level use of a lot of the vacant commercial property that is currently in downtown to make it feel more vibrant and more interesting and safer for folks to walk around and enjoy.
Well, then what should the tech and the business community be prepared to shoulder financially, civically, to help pay for the challenges faced by Seattle that you've been outlining?
Yeah, the reality is, and I'm supported by a lot of folks, a lot of workers in the tech sector industry, which I'm really happy to have their support. But the reality is that we all know that the tech sector is largely unregulated, including by taxation systems. And in the good words of President Joe Biden, I agree that it's time for our largest, wealthiest corporations, whether you're in the tech sector or not, to pay your fair share of taxes so that we can address these really critically important issues around building a vibrant city, which includes housing infrastructure, which includes transit infrastructure, which includes investments in sustainability and better, greener practices to not further pollute our community. And so that's what I'm going to be asking our wealthiest corporations to do is to pay their fair share in local taxes, to allow for us to build the housing workers need, to build the housing that we need to house our currently unhoused folks, and to help us invest in our own resilience as we continue to experience the realities of climate justice, climate impact.
Well, dovetailing into that slightly is the Compassion Seattle Charter Amendment. Now, I know that you didn't support that. It's not as it is an issue, sort of broadly speaking. It isn't an issue because it's actually literally not on the ballot anymore. But what do you think about the broad concepts behind it, both that requiring a portion of the city to pay for services and housing, but in exchange requiring the city also to remove encampments from public spaces? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, listen, homelessness is the number one issue in our city. That's true for a lot of West Coast cities, and I'm sure for folks who are watching this, who are in the tech sector, they're all too familiar with sort of the correlation of the tech boom and growing income inequality and the wealth gaps in the cities where those tech companies are located. Seattle has not been immune from that effect, and so I share the urgency and the desire to want to rapidly address the needs of those who are unhoused, and I think that the corporate backed proposal that is Charter Amendment 29 was the wrong approach. The city currently funds homelessness at 11%, so literally the proposal was only adding an additional 1% and trying to sell to the people that was somehow going to be, the solution to the suffering that we see on our streets. And it's simply not true. An additional 1% investment is not going to cut it. especially when we know that the housing needs of the extremely low income, which include people who are homeless, is $1 billion. So the next thing that I would say is that the people in this city are very compassionate people. They also are desperate for real solutions and meaningful impact as it relates to addressing homelessness. And so that was fundamentally why I opposed this charter amendment, is because it was premised on sweeping people across the city, on forcibly removing people, even though we can't offer them shelter or housing because it's not available. And I think that is not a solution. That is an inhumane practice. It's cruel, it's traumatizing, and more important, and just as importantly, it doesn't work. We're just spreading, we're just spreading the issue across the city and dispersing unhoused people into deeper and deeper into neighborhoods and deeper into unsafe situations. So we have a responsibility to meet their needs. I have a commitment to do that. And yesterday we released a very detailed plan that will get us towards meaningful progress in the first 100 days of my administration.
Well, in the broader idea of how much the city should be doing for people who maybe are falling a bit behind is the issue of municipal broadband, which of course the state has taken up. I guess the dual question would be, do you support municipal broadband? And secondarily, should the city contribute financially to setting up that sort of structure?
Yeah, I've been a longtime supporter of municipal broadband. Of course, cost is always a concern. And there's been some more recent studies that talk about how we can use existing utility infrastructure as opposed to creating all new infrastructure as a way to make it more cost effective and affordable. But there's no question that there is an internet inequity and internet access gap across the city. And COVID has really shown us how important broadband is to be able to survive and continue to keep a job and work and learn. And there's no question that BIPOC communities, suffered the brunt of lack of access, lack of affordable access, lack of any access in some instances to broadband. And so this is both an equity issue and a basic infrastructure issue. And we shouldn't allow broadband to just belong to the private sector and expect our residents to be at the mercy of those corporate interests.
So if I could distill it then, yes, you're in support of it, but you'd have to look at the numbers before you decided the city should invest financially in something like that.
Yeah, we have to look at the most cost-effective way to do it. And I also think that we should focus and target on those geographic areas we know currently have a lack of reliable access to the internet, that also include individuals who come from BIPOC communities. So we don't have to, sort of deploy citywide. I think a more strategic approach and more cost-effective approach would be to sort of focus in on those areas that we know currently have inequities as a way to begin the process. But I do believe that broadband is important, but my number one area of where I want to invest dollars is going to be in the area of housing affordability and homelessness. And that's got to be a priority for the next mayor, while we sort of, address these other revenue issues related to other important infrastructure like broadband.
So for our real techies out there who are going to be either reading this or watching this, what is the most important innovation to emerge from Seattle in the past 50 years, in your opinion?
Oh my goodness. That's a really good question. What is Seattle specifically, or I guess the region?
The region would be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta give a nod to Microsoft. As they do have an office in Seattle now. It really did change the way we do our office work. I think all of us, even if you're working on a Mac, you're still accessing the cloud and OneDrive and all of those systems. And so I think it really sort of just changed the way the world does its desktop work. And so I think that we should all be proud of that level of innovation that just kind of seems like it's always existed at this point.
All right, it is now time for the lightning round. These are going to be pretty quick questions for our geekiest listeners and readers. First, Mac or PC?
Mac.
Your phone, Apple or Android?
Apple.
Yes or no? Amazon. You are an Amazon Prime member.
Yes.
Favorite app and why?
Oh, it's my transit app. It tells me when I can get the bus.
All right, you just have to pick one here. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or Netflix?
YouTube.
What habits, good or bad, did you pick up or shed during the pandemic?
I learned how to breastfeed during the pandemic because I had a pandemic baby.
There you go. The best show to stream while cooped up at home, in your opinion?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to go with the Great British Baking Show.
That show's dynamite. I completely agree with you on that.
There's a new episode out today, by the way.
I'll be looking for it. Council President Gonzalez, thank you so much for joining GeekWire today. And we know you have a super busy month ahead. So we thank you for taking the time to meet with us.
Thanks, Mike. Really appreciate the time.